So can I have my full photo on the screen? My full photo. Okay, so we are going to talk about the newer medicines, empagliflozin, in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay. हेलो मिनाज, हेलो।
यस सर, यस सर।
तो मेरे स्लाइड शेयर कैसे करेंगे हम? स्लाइड शेयर करूं?
सर हाँ, करिए ना सर। ये सर बॉटम पे आपने जो मिनिमाइज कर रखा है सर, उसको आप क्लिक करिएगा।
ओके, कैन यू सी नाउ?
सर आप इसको सर स्लाइड मोड, प्रेजेंटेशन मोड पे कर दीजिए। अभी थोड़ा सा स्लाइड ना इज नॉट इन फुल लेंथ।
नहीं, सी मतलब प्रेजेंटेशन मोड पे ही है।
ओके ओके, राइट सर, नो इशू। ठीक है सर। So sir, I would like to sir introduce yourself.
Okay.
Hi, very good afternoon to all of you, and very good afternoon to Dr. Vivek Gupta sir. Dr. Vivek Gupta is an eminent cardiologist at Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. And so sir, welcome you, and welcome to all the delegates who is joining today's session. So over to you sir.
Okay, thank you Buringer and other people, Minhaj and Dr. Mr. Hasib, for giving me the opportunity to talk about diabetes mellitus and newer treatment modalities. So diabetes is a very important disease, and we are facing overall incidence is about 10 to 15% in general population and 35% in patients who are having cardiovascular disease. So very highly prominent disease causing lot of problems. So today I'm going to talk about the cardiorenal metabolic outcomes in type 2 diabetes mellitus and what is the place of SGLT2 inhibition. This is a newer class, I would say relatively newer class of medicine, which is very useful in treatment, reducing the blood sugar levels, reducing the overall complications which can happen because of diabetes mellitus. So we'll talk about cardiorenal and metabolic outcomes which happens in type 2 diabetes mellitus and how these can be managed by addition of newer medicines, especially SGLT2 inhibitor medicines. So coming to the next slide, I will give you a little baseline of diabetes, the base, how it is. In India, we have a thin fat Indian phenotype and risk of type 2 diabetes mellitus is higher. If you see this diagram, which has been taken from Front Public Health, published in 2016, if you see that Indians have a higher fat mass as compared to the lean mass. So this leads to more metabolic complications of diabetes mellitus. 1 in 3 patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus have cardiovascular disease in Indian patients setting. 1 in 3 patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus have cardiovascular disease. That means 33%, almost 37% patients. And few are having symptoms and few are not having symptoms, but they have abnormal test finding. So this is very important. There will be 30% chances of diabetes to have cardiovascular disease. And this is very recent data published in February 2017. So we have to be very careful. That means we have to choose the medicines which should have cardiovascular benefit. So asymptomatic, if you see the asymptomatic Indian patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, Indian data, we have found that majority of the patients who have got cardiovascular disease is the male more than 45 years and female more than 55 years. This is the data which is shown from Mark survey, which is a measurement of asymptomatic cardiovascular disease, and they have done in 1500 patients. So this is Indian data which has shown that the patients who have got, they are asymptomatic patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, majority are the males more than 45 and females more than 55 years. Prevalence of chronic kidney disease. You see, kidney disease is also one of the major bad effect of diabetes patients. If you see the prevalence of chronic kidney disease, because you lead to kidney failure and the patient will require dialysis, or sometimes they require renal transplantation, or if these two things are not available, patient will have a death. The prevalence of CKD in Indian patient with diabetes, secondary analysis of eye care for diabetes survey has shown that 58% of patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus in Indian OPDs have varying extent of CKD. 58% of patients will have various effect of CKD. Chronic kidney disease is at least in 58% of patients, various levels. Very high incidence, 35% patients with heart disease while 58% of patients will have a kidney disease of various extent. So this is a very bad combination. You have diabetes, you have 1/3 patient will have cardiovascular disease, heart disease, and 60% patients will have various levels of kidney disease. What is the continuum of cardiorenal metabolic risk? Cardiorenal metabolic risk in patients with diabetes mellitus. A patient of diabetes mellitus, if you see the whole diagram, if we see the patient with diabetes mellitus starts with endothelial dysfunction, if they are not well managed, they will have atherosclerosis, they will have macroalbuminuria. This can lead to MI, stroke. This will lead to chronic coronary artery disease. Atherosclerosis will lead to coronary artery disease, lead to heart attack and stroke. Chronic kidney disease will happen because of the kidney disease involvement. This can lead to end-stage kidney disease, and of course, if not managed well, patients will either have heart failure or cardiovascular death. This is a continuum of cardiorenal metabolic disease. So that is why we have to be careful and we have to be fearful, both fearful and careful, but not panic. If you are fearful, then you will take measures so that you don't have them. So what are the priorities of treatment in type 2 diabetes mellitus? Priorities: a patient of diabetes mellitus, uncontrolled sugar, high HbA1c level. We should have the time in range. This is important because we have to, time in range means a patient who has got a control of diabetes with a level of blood sugar between 70 and 100 and 170 in at least 70% of time in 24 hours. Then HbA1c goal versus hypoglycemia. You can achieve goal, but you should not have hypoglycemia. That means blood sugar level should not go down so that patient will have serious side effects. You should reduce the visceral adiposity. You have a better insulin resistance, and you should prevent premature CVD risk, and you should prevent CKD risk. This is how, these are the priorities. And in patients we have to control diabetes so that we should not have, these are the things we should have in control. What about the effects of oral glucose lowering therapies? You see, we have already got various medicines, especially metformin and sulfonylureas. Glimepiride के नाम से आता है ये, and this is earlier, and this metformin is the most commonly used disease, the treatment therapy. The 5 major landmarks which is required is glycemia control, blood sugar control. Then you should have a low risk of hypoglycemia. That means if you give medicines, you should have a low risk of hypoglycemia. Then you should have weight loss. Blood pressure should be controlled, and lipid profile should be controlled. These are the 5 things which are required. If you see various combined together, this is summary actually. If you see sulfonylureas, you are achieving only glycemia control. You are not achieving anything else. In metformin, you are achieving glycemic control, but there is hypoglycemia is not there. But weight loss, blood pressure, and lipid profile are not addressed by metformin. If you see gliptins have good glycemic control. There is no major cause of hypoglycemia, but other 3 parameters are not there. Pioglitazones are not being used so commonly, but they have, except for weight loss, they have got benefits. SGLT2 inhibitor, which we are talking, have got a good glycemic control. They have a least chances of hypoglycemia. They also promote weight loss. They promote blood pressure lowering, and the effect on the lipid profile is not very much not established. So these are the way how we need it, and we need all these 5 parameters to be actually addressed other than cardiovascular risk. So if you see the metabolic benefit on type 2 diabetes mellitus, we have to control HbA1c, which is the 3 months control of blood sugar. We have to reduce the visceral adiposity. We have to improve the insulin sensitivity. We have to improve the blood pressure, and we have to reduce the overall biomarkers inflammation, because this leads to heart attacks and plaque rupture. So if you see Asian patients, there's a study which was published in 2020, and they said glycemic efficacy. Now we're talking of SGLT2 inhibition. Somehow the Asian patients, they fare well as compared to the Europeans, especially the SGLT2, and this is not that well established for DP4, but for SGLT2, this is significantly better improvement in Asians versus whites. At the same time, if you see the empagliflozin significantly improves time in range. I was talking about time in range. What is time in range? Any medicine which controls sugars between 70 and 180 within 24 hours, and more than 70% times. If you see the time in range with EMPA, Even in day 1 and day 28, it is 57%, 65%. In placebo, it is 57%. If you see EMPA and GLEMPA, this is 70% achieved in day 28. And even on day 1, we have a very high level of time in range. That means the glycemic control, the glycemic blood sugar control with empagliflozin, which we are talking, SGL2, is very, very good if you see the time in range. Coming to the next slide, at progressive baseline HbA1c levels, SGL2 inhibition demonstrated a steeper decline in HbA1c compared to DP4. So now we have to compare the two, the established we are talking of SGL2 inhibitors, which is empagliflozin, and we are talking of gliptins, which is DPP4. And if you see that baseline HbA1c control at the level of 8 or at the level of 9, it is better controlled and more steeper decline with SGL2 inhibitions, and this is a study which has significantly increased efficacy with EMPA. So that means this is controlled that you have a higher efficacy, yani it is more effective than DPP4, which is gliptins. Coming on to the EMPA versus Glimpride. Glimpride is one of the very important salt which is being taken by a lot of Indians. Glimpride, which is actually sulfonylurea, and after metformin, this is the more important salt which is being used. Now we have to compare the already established versus EMPA, which is a new, relatively newer, now available in India for a long time now, but it is relatively newer. If you compare, if you add on to metformin, this is always the first medicine to be taken in diabetes, metformin, first medicine. And either you add Glimpride or you add EMPA. If you see the hypoglycemia risk comparison and HbA1c reduction, the hypoglycemia events is much higher in the Glimpride to 30% versus only 3% with EMPA. So this is very significant, I would say. If you add EMPA to metformin and if you add Glimpride to metformin, the chances of hypoglycemia is much higher in this. If you see HbA1c reduction is almost same. That means with a good HbA1c reduction, almost same HbA1c reduction, you have a less hypoglycemic events. EMPA versus Glimpride is add on to metformin. If you see the weight loss, this was actually the hypoglycemia. Now we're talking of weight loss. Weight loss with EMPA is maintained over 4 years. If you add on EMPA to metformin. Now you're talking of visceral adiposity. If you see total fat mass at 104 weeks, the study has shown that EMPA fares better in reduction of visceral adiposity versus Glimpride when we are adding to metformin. Coming on to the insulin resistance is better done, better controlled. Resistance is better, significantly improved with EMPA as compared to Glimpride. So this is another metabolic effect which is better as compared to Glimpride when you add on to metformin. For 59% lowering in insulin requirement, if you see the new initiation, if you compare, now we're coming to EMPA alone. This is EMPA-REG is a large trial which has established empagliflozin. In the trial was done in 7,000 patients. I will talk to you later. But there's a meaningful 59% reduction, lowering in insulin requirement when you are using this over 4 years. Coming to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is a very important complication of diabetes patient. The diabetes patient may have a fatty liver, and this can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It can be dangerous. It can lead to sometimes cirrhosis, which is a liver failure. So EMPA significantly reduces hepatic fat content in patients with diabetes mellitus and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is a very important advantage to have a long-term benefit in reduction in the fatty liver disease. In non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, the patients who are not taking alcohol but they still have got a fatty liver and steatohepatitis, and they have hepatitis, if you see, the preliminary evidence suggests histological improvement in NASH in type 2 diabetes mellitus after 6 months of treatment with EMPA. This is a very important advantage because you are also preventing a liver disease which can happen in patients of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Risk of new onset obstructive sleep apnea. So obstructive sleep apnea is found to be higher in patients of diabetes. They have a sleep apnea. That means the patients who are snoring in the night, they will have a reduced saturation levels. And this also is reduced in EMPA versus placebo in diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So now EMPA reduces 24-hour blood pressure control. This is SACTRA study. EMPA reduces morning blood pressure in patients with type 2 and nocturnal uncontrolled hypertension. Morning blood pressure is also reduced better So you see, we are talking of diabetes medicine and it has got a positive effect on blood pressure. This is something new, and we should notice that this is not there in glimepiride, it's not there in gliptin. So you have additional beneficial by reducing the blood pressure also in the patients who are diabetes mellitus. It also reduces the albuminuria. What is albuminuria? That means albumin which is excreted through the urine. And macroalbuminuria are the first step for chronic kidney disease. And this is also reduced in baseline in 41% reduction and 32% reduction in 24 weeks. So when you are talking of EMPA versus glimepiride, kidney functions eGFR stabilization demonstrated over 4 years. 4-year data, very long data, published in 2018. They have shown that compared to glimepiride, EMPA reduces or stabilizes the kidney functions better. So till now we were talking about actually the metabolic complications. Now we are talking of clinical, that means kidney disease per se, heart disease, heart attacks, angina per se. So next few slides will tell about what are the cardio-renal direct benefits of SGLT2 inhibition EMPA in diabetes. That means we'll talk about major adverse cardiovascular events, we'll talk about cardiovascular death, we'll talk about heart failure, hospitalization, we'll talk about cardiac structure and function, and we'll talk about kidney outcomes by taking SGLT2 inhibitions treatment in type 2 diabetes mellitus. So this is a meta-analysis of 7 phase 3 studies. Not very important trial is EMPA-REG, which I'll come to you later on. But without this, the meta-analysis of 7 phase 3 studies have shown cardiovascular safety of EMPA in meta-analysis of phase 3 studies. And these are reduction in 4P MACE, 3P MACE, and cardiovascular death and heart failure. Major adverse cardiovascular event is reduced with EMPA and hazard ratio 0.59. It is reduced in MACE as well as CV death, and this is not including EMPA-REG. So even these 5 studies, meta-analysis of 7 phase 3 studies, this has shown a very important benefit in reduction of heart complications and heart failure complications. Coming on to EMPA-REG. EMPA-REG is a very important trial of 7,000 patients, and they have found out that 38% reduction in cardiovascular death, 38%. Meaningful, early and sustained decrease in the risk of CV death in the patients who have taken empagliflozin in type 2 diabetes patients. And this is EMPA-REG outcome, 38% reduction in cardiovascular death. Very important point to note. Coming on to the next slide, coming on to EMPA-REG outcome, consistently reduce the risk of CV death in patients with ASCVD and diabetes and regardless of CVD. That means patients of single vessel disease or multi-vessel disease or bypass surgery or prior heart attack. All 4 categories taken together, they have reduction of cardiovascular death in all these 4 varieties of patients. And CV reduction is EMPA in patients with stroke, peripheral vascular disease, heart failure, atrial fibrillation. If we see all these 4, heart failure, prior, atrial fibrillation, which is abnormal rhythm of the heart, patient who have additional stroke, and patient who has a peripheral vascular disease, empagliflozin has consistently reduced the risk of CV death in patients with all these, regardless of CVD manifestation. EMPA-REG outcome, risk reduction in different categories of CV death. That means fatal MI, fatal stroke, heart failure. So these are various varieties of CV death. So it has consistently reduced the CV death, and P ratio is 0.001, highly statistically significant. So this is to be noted that this is another trial. Now we jumping from EMPA-REG to Lancet 2020 trial. So let me tell to the audience that EMPA-REG trial has consistently shown that addition of or utilization of empagliflozin, that means SGLT2 inhibitor, has shown to be very beneficial with 38% reduction in cardiovascular mortality or death. Coming on to the Lancet 2020 data, which is a McGuire DK et al. Published here, significantly reduces the risk of total CV outcome in patient diabetes with CVD, 21% lower risk of total MI with EMPA versus placebo, 21% risk of total MI. This is again highly significant data which is seen in this is secondary analysis of EMPA-REG outcome study based on total events including first and recurrent event. This is actually a secondary analysis of same trial published recently in Lancet 20. What about the overall cardiovascular outcome trials of SGLT2 in type 2 diabetes mellitus? Trials taken from year 2015 till 2020. Summary of evidence, baseline characteristics. If you see the trials, we are talking about EMPA-REG trial. Now we're talking of Canvas program, Declare TIMI, Credence, and Vertis CV. So EMPA-REG was with empagliflozin. Canvas trial is canagliflozin. Dapagliflozin is Declare TIMI and Credence. So overall mortality data, if you see, that means if you compare these 4 trials, we'll talk a little later about the various advantages of the summary of evidence. If you see, the follow-up, the patient number was 7,000 in EMPA-REG, in Canvas more 10,000, Declare TIMI for DAPA is 17,000, and these are Vertis CV is only 8,000 patients. So base risk reduction with SGL2 in type 2 mellitus with only in EMPA-REG and Canvas. So when we're talking about EMPA-REG is empagliflozin, but Canvas is canagliflozin. The MACE reduction is only in these two. If you see EMPA-REG and Canvas program, the MACE reduction is statistically significant only in these 2 trials and not in Declare TIMI or Credence or Vertis. So this is how a MACE reduction is there. Then CV death reduction with SGL2 in type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular outcome trials decrease risk of CV death in only in EMPA-REG. If you see of cardiovascular death in ASCVD patients, it's only in EMPA-REG. This is how you see EMPA-REG has shown a reduction in mortality in ASCVD patients, increased risk of death, decreased risk of death and CV death in ASCVD patients. Coming on to the all-cause mortality by SGLT in type 2 diabetes mellitus, driven by EMPA-REG outcome, and you see that all-cause mortality is also reduced in EMPA-REG. Hospitalization for heart failure. Coming on to the second part. Risk reduction with SGLT in type 2 diabetes mellitus, consistent improvement heart failure in all studies. That means heart failure, hospitalization is reduced in all studies, whether it is EMPA or it is, these are 4 trials, EMPA or Canvas or Declare TIMI or Credence and Vertis CV. Heart failure hospitalization is seen consistently in all patients. CVOT outcomes comparison, you have seen that demonstrated improvement in CV outcomes in patient with atherosclerosis CVD in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Comparison, major adverse CV events, cardiovascular death and hospitalization for heart failure, EMPA-REG, Canvas, Declare. If you see, the significant reduction happens only in EMPA-REG when we're talking of CV events. When you talk of cardiovascular death, only in EMPA-REG. Cardiovascular death, only in EMPA-REG. Hospitalization for heart failure, this is a comparative data in all 4. That means hospitalization for heart failure is with all the 4 trials. This is empagliflozin, this is Cani, this is DAPA. So if you see all these things, that means, but most important highlighting point is cardiovascular death reduction is only seen in EMPA-REG, which is driven by empagliflozin. So let us talk about heart failure per se. EMPEROR data and DAPA trial. In patients with heart failure, reduced ejection fraction, robust evidence with 2 RCT suggests that SGLT2 consistently reduces the risk of CV death heart failure regardless of type 2 diabetes mellitus, and SGLT2 consistently reduces the risk of CV death or heart failure hospitalization regardless of type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is a very robust evidence for these 2 trials. About nephropathy per se, let us talk about nephropathy. EMPA demonstrated consistently risk reduction for incident of worsening nephropathy, overall all risk disease for CKD. This is how the EMPA has shown improvement in EMPA-REG outcome. SGLT2 agents have demonstrated clinically meaningful kidney outcomes even in studies involving patients without diabetes. Okay, that's very important. Even without diabetes mellitus, if you see, there is a clinically meaningful kidney outcomes in EMPA SGL2 studies, all SGL2. Coming on to the real world data, 78,000 patients published in June 2020. It has shown EMPRISE real world evidence involving 78,000 patients matched rigorously to minimize 140 potentially confoundable this. And if we see EMPA versus gliptin, the risk ratio is the cardiovascular disease patient is involvement. And if you see the CV benefits with EMPA translated routine care in type 2 diabetes mellitus, 41% risk in heart failure and 48% reduction in mortality comparison to DPP4, which is gliptin. So this is 41% reduction in heart failure hospitalization and 48% risk reduction in, this is real world. So real world data is far superior if you compare with EMPA-REG, which is a trial which involves 7,000 patients, but this is real world data with 78,000 patients, and they have found 48% risk of reduction in all-cause mortality when you are using empagliflozin versus gliptin. Very important to note. In older adults with type 2, EMPRISE-W demonstrated consistent heart failure hospitalization mortality. Even it is in older patients more than 65 years, this is there. A Scandinavian real-world entry has shown the data which has included 14,000 and 15,000 patients were excluded, and only included 54,000 patients, new users SGL2, and 1,22,000 new users DP4. The study design was important, and this was again real-world data, and 59,000 patients were matched in matched cohorts. 59,000 patients were in matched cohorts, and they have shown that new users of SGL2 versus serious kidney disease events were statistically reduced per thousand events per thousand were only 2.1 in EMPA versus 2.8 in DAPA. Coming on to the last part of my talk, which is guideline, ADA, American Diabetic Association guideline. This is an important slide. So ADA Standard of Care 2021 guidance. You can consider SGL2 with proven benefit independently of baseline HbA1c. Independent of the baseline HbA1c for patient indicator of cardiovascular disease, CKD and heart failure. If you have the first line therapy is metformin and comprehensive lifestyle. Always metformin is the first line therapy. Indicators of high risk for established patients. If you have established patients of cardiovascular disease, angina, heart attack, or kidney failure or heart failure, then the group will go into this. If you don't have disease of any of these disease, cardiovascular or CKD or heart failure, then you have to depend upon this. So let us take the patients who have got CVD, CKD and heart failure. Consider independently of baseline ACC, individualized AAC target of metformin use. The patient has got heart failure, particularly ejection fraction less than 40, SGLT2 inhibitor with proven benefit, you should add SGLT2 inhibitors. If you have established indicator for high risk SCVD, age more than 55, coronary carotid artery disease or peripheral vascular disease or VH, you have to either take insulin analog or SGLT2 with proven CVD benefit, which is EMPA, proven CVD benefit. If AIC is above target, if further intensification required, patient is allergic to GLP, then you have to choose any other agent. That means in metformin, if you have a heart disease patient, you have to add SGLT2 inhibitor. In heart failure, you have to add SGLT2 inhibitor. If you have CKD with albuminuria, you have to add SGLT2 inhibitors with proven benefit. Coming on to the patients who do not have these risk factors of CVD or CKD or heart failure, how to treat these patients? If ANC is above individual target, proceed as below. If there is a compelling need for minimize hypoglycemia, that means the patient has got a very high blood sugar level and HbA1c is very high. Compelling need to minimize hypoglycemia. If there is a patient who has got, and you don't want hypoglycemia, that's a compelling need, especially elderly patients. You don't want to have hypoglycemia. Then if ANC is above target, then SGL2 inhibitor or DPP4 or both can be used. This is there. That means when you are having established CKD or you have to use SGLT only, but in these cases you can also use DPP4 inhibitors. If you have a compelling need to minimize weight gain or promote weight gain or reduce the promote weight loss, then of course SGLT is better than DPP4. If you have a compelling need to reduce, that means patient is obese. The obese patient, you should use SGLT rather than gliptins. And cost is a major issue, then of course you have to use SGLT better because the analogs are very expensive. The last part of my talk will be ADA Standards of Care 2021 guidelines. We have to just summarize again the same thing. Metformin is high in efficacy, but hypoglycemia is not there, but weight loss is not there, ASCVD benefits are not there, renal effects are not there. If you see SGLT inhibitors, although efficacy is intermediate as compared, but you can add on to metformin. Hypoglycemia risk is not there, weight loss is there, which is desirable in obese patients. You have a cardiovascular huge benefit advantage. You have a cardiovascular benefit, reduction in cardiovascular mortality, 38%, 48% with the real world data. So this is the benefit with EMPA and CANI. And you have a heart failure hospitalization in all these patients. While neutral in progression of CKD, all three SGLT inhibitors can be used. This is a summary of the ADA guideline. Coming on to the ESC, ASA guidelines, EMPA and liraglutide have class 1 indication. This is ESC, European Society of Cardiology guidelines. Class 1A are those are one of those where you have a proven benefit by trials. So if you see recommendation for SGL2, EMPA, CANA or DAPA are recommended in patients with diabetes mellitus with cardiovascular disease or very high risk or cardiovascular risk or to reduce CV events. EMPA is recommended in patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus to reduce risk of, this is class 1B. So this is what I want to tell you, that even ADA guideline, which is the American guideline, versus ESC guideline, which is a European guidelines, both have said if you have a patient with diabetes, with heart failure or heart disease or MI or angina or heart attack or kidney disease or heart failure, you have to use SGLT2 inhibitors as compared to, especially if the patient is obese. If the patient is obese also, then you have to use this. So let me summarize this. The treatment for the nephrologist, they have a very important guideline. If you have a eGFR less than 30, then you have to stop metformin. Again, for the same thing is for SGL2. SGL2 inhibitors should be used, should be discontinued, should not be used if you have a high creatinine level and you have a estimated GFR less than 30. In those cases, you have to use sulfonylureas, which are better, or gliptins. So this is a caution to be taken in patients of kidney disease. What are the contraindications of whenever you should not be used? So you should not be used if the patient has got a low eGFR. Pregnant and breastfeeding women should not be used. Stressful condition, for example, hospitalization, illness, surgery, risk of these patients should not be used, and they have caution. To summarize, cardiovascular, renal, metabolic risk progresses as a continuum in patient with diabetes mellitus and is amenable to risk modification with SGL2. This is a very important point. It is, although you have a patient of diabetes which can lead to progression of disease to cardiac problems, or patients will lead to kidney problem, diabetes, but this is amenable to risk modification with these group of compound SGL2. Personalized approach suggests preference of GL2 inhibitions. EMPA has demonstrated significant risk reduction for CV events including CV death, heart failure, MI, all-cause mortality and diabetes. Real-world evidence supports the transition of CV and renal benefits with EMPA in routine practice across broad group of patients with diabetes. Real-world evidence also shows the trials have also shown benefit of cardiovascular death, MI, heart failure. Optimum clinical consideration is perfect for each antibiotic therapy is in principle to individualized approach to every patient. So you should be trying to help the diabetes patients by choosing the best salt which has got advantage in cardiovascular benefit, in kidney complications, in obese patients, but you cannot use it in established kidney patients where you can have serious implications. You should not use it. So this is my final summary. That means the diabetes patients who can have heart attacks, angina, MI, angina, acute coronary syndromes, unstable angina, NSTMI, STEMI, this is modifiable if you use SGL2 inhibitors. And even the kidney patients' progression, that means to have reduced those patients who have got albuminuria, they have high chances, even that progression is reduced by using, and it further reduces the heart failure hospitalization, it further reduces the weight, and therefore you are lean and thin, and therefore this should be judicious use. But if you have a patient who has already established kidney disease with eGFR less than 30, you cannot use this. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has liked this small talk by myself, Dr. Vivek Gupta from Apollo Hospital in Delhi.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, thank you so much for your valuable time, sir.
Okay, I think the message is loud and clear. That means
Yes, sir.
you have to have judicious use of these newer anti-diabetic medicines, and the paradigm change is there, where earlier all the physicians were using sulfonylurea and metformin combinations. I have seen the time,
Yes,
20 years back or 10 years back or 15 years back, there was only sulfonylurea and metformin or insulin later on. But now there has been paradigm shift in the treatment modality, especially with gliptins and especially with SGL2 inhibitors. So I hope everybody has liked this talk, and the physician should be having a good choice of medicines now to treat their patients judiciously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your advocacy, sir. Thank you for joining. this meeting, sir.
Okay, namaskar.
Thank you.